Hello and welcome to CS230. This is Lecture 12 and Lesson 4. And in this particular lesson, I'd like to give you an overview of how you might build simple single-page application apps using Angular. We'll have a quick look at the examples in the W3 Schools Angularjs Routing examples, and these are all specifically designed for building SPAs. But if you don't like W3 Schools, there's a whole bunch of other nice examples that you could look at here, and they all, are single page tutorials in some respects, and you could have a look at those. It'll be nice. Okay, so this is the W3 Schools Angular tutorial. You can work through it. It's a very simple, very straightforward examples already. There's also a very nice single page application tutorial here that you can work through if you wish. And again, I have found another one, and those links are in the actual examples. But we're interested in AngularJS routing because, as we mentioned earlier, the whole notion of SPAs is that you want to set up routes so that as you navigate and move around the app that you're interested in using or building or presenting to the user, instead of loading separate pages, as you would in a multi-page website, then you upload the content, and you can take JSON to put that content in, or you can build all that content in HTML directly into the example yourself. And what's important here is you can do stuff like this. It's really nice. Add a shopping list, and this is all nicely done with Angular, a single-page Angular app, and it explains how it all works. Okay, so it's pretty nice. The codes are there. So we're interested in routing in particular. So routing is, as I said to you, if you want to navigate through different pages in your app or simulate the fact that you want to look at pages, but you also want it to be a single-page application with no reloading, you use this ng-route module. Okay, and so you can create an app with the various ng-route. And here, an example of how this works is here. So we run this, and we can load a separate page. These are all separate pages here. Okay, go back to the main, and so what's happening is we're calling different controllers that load the router to be able to load the different color backgrounds here. So it's fairly straightforward. The code is here, and it's not too complex, but we'll have a look at a version in ourselves. Okay, so really what's happening is that you need to load your Angular, which is here. You need to load the Angular route, which is here. Okay, so in your body of your app, your single page app, you're saying, this is my Angular app. Okay, and this is a link here that tells us you just want to come home. If you get, this is your route. Okay, this is your link, and click through because these are the links here. And it's /plain, and then we load red, green, blue on each of those links. Okay, and what's happening is that we set up our app in our script tag, my app, because we've set this up here as my app. Okay, and now we're actually going to use ng-route, and that's the module that we loaded that's going to be used by this app. So now we're going to configure this app with an anonymous function that utilizes this route provider variable, okay, or parameter that comes actually with the ng-route module. Okay, and really what we're doing is we're telling and using route provider what to do when we click through and receive a particular route, okay, or some URL. Okay, so when the route is /, we load in the template for the URL. We load in main.htm. Sometimes we see HTML instead of HTML. When it's /red, we load red.htm, green.html, blue.html. Okay, so that's really telling us what to do when we actually receive routes in terms of the clicks to this particular app. Okay, so if you click on the links, this is the body, and that's all it does, right? So everything is handled here for you. Okay, so red, green, blue, and we can download and install those ourselves. But so I was using a different example that came from W3 Schools, where we wanted to look at setting up cities. So here's our main app, and it's demo 4. You can actually look at it. The code will be there. Click in the city, and it tells you a little bit about London. Click in city 2. It clicks a little bit about Paris. Tells you a little bit about Paris, back and forth. But in this particular example, we're not loading separate files. Oh, well, maybe we are. I'll just check actually. Let's go back to code. Yeah, we are. We're loading the files again here. Okay. Again, here's a simple example. We have our Angular AGI API is loaded. Our router is loaded. Setting up an app. This is our main link here that brings us back. This is our London and Paris link here. And each view has, in this time where each view has a separate controller. So it was slightly different to the previous one. Because if we looked at the examples, we just changed the code previously. So this one we use a controller. Okay, and we can see this now. So if we look at the Angular app again, it's using the ng-root. The root provider again is our variable. What happens when we get just //London //Paris? It loads these files that we have, and we're telling it now which controller to call as well. So there's the Paris controller, there's a London controller. And what do these do? So the app.controller for London controller adds to the scope a message, I love London, I love Paris. Okay? And what happens there, what really happening is that's telling us that we have a little message somewhere in the Paris.htm and the London.htm files that allow us to be able to, that we need to change to have the two-way binding. So that's what's happening here, and it's very similar to what we looked at previously. So let's go back and let's see if we can load that file. And is it? Yeah, there we go. Look, there's the message. So this is the placeholder that's going to be used by the controller to update that message. Okay, and we could open the Paris one as well just to show you they're pretty much the exact same. Okay, Paris file. So really what's happening is, once again, is we're using Angular to set up the single page app. We're using Angular Root as a module for Angular that allows us to be able to handle in-page routing when we get various requests. And then we click on if we get our basic default route, we load the main.html. When we get a London, we London HTML, and we invoke this controller, and that controller is responsible for updating the message variable with this message, I love Paris. So it shows you that we've got this two-way binding between what's happening in the model here and what's happening elsewhere. And that's it. So we can go back to our app and have a peek, and we can look up here. It's demo 4, and I think I just we get an error. So it's not meant. So we're not meant to be accessing it right directly. So we do everything within the actual app itself. So these are just internal self-references within the app that allows us to do this. Now I think I did I think I did another one for you as well. Did I do demo 5? Let me just look and see. No, I didn't do this one here. Let me just go back here. No, I didn't do another demo. I thought that I had a second one there. Just check here. I have a demo. Let me quickly peek and have a peek. No, that was just the red, blue, and green, just to check to make sure that worked. Okay, so really that's all that's going on with Angular and routing and so forth. It's worthwhile. Working through this example, working through the demos, and the W3 schools give you a number of ways to do it. What's really interesting is if you work down through this, you will find that it's also possible to run the examples by not having separate files. And what you can do is you can actually create templates of HTML directly within this root provider object here without loading files. So it's okay. Of course, you want to have a big file. If you've got lots of content, you'll put everything into a separate HTML file. But for simple templates, you can actually have the template here, because previously we looked at template URL up here. Okay, so we told it URL, template URL in the router. Okay, and now we're just building a little template ourselves, so we don't have to have separate files. So it literally is a way to do this, and it's nice. It's really, really nice. Okay, and you can specify what to do when you actually when you have a situation where the route clicks, or there's a click through on the route, and we don't have an actual route defined. So it's this dot otherwise method associated with the route provider object. So it works out fine. Okay. Okay, I've given all the reference links for the examples that I've used there. Again, it's W3 Schools has a really nice Angular example and routing, again, for single page applications. I'd certainly recommend that you have a look at this. Okay, thank you very much for watching.